Alright guys, the patch has arrived. It's been anticipated for weeks and now it's finally here, and I'm excited to break it down for you. We'll go through it and give you some of the impressions of mine about what the changes are, because there's a couple doozies in here and I'm not sure how I feel about just a couple of them, but overall I'm really excited for a brand new meta. Now, we do have the more tokens being earned here. We got the shop update, the choose your card for people that aren't pool 3 complete yet, which is great. The token shop now is only going to have series 4, 5, and ultimate variants, which is generally pretty good. I mean, that means that, you know, if you're interested in getting some pool 3 cards, you get one for free every month while you're also unlocking them through your progression track. It makes the targeting of the token shop a little more awkward because now you can't like isolate individual cards, but overall it's an interesting change. We'll have to see if it generally like ends up being an improvement for pool 3 players still. You know, time will tell, but I think that their intentions are try to, you know, give everyone a free card while also giving you the ability to unlock them steadily, while also allowing you to kind of focus in on unlocking series 4 and 5 cards with your tokens. Well, hey, giving you more tokens at that. So hey, generally if you can get more cards in your hand, that's a good thing. So we'll have to see how this ends up playing out. Now, we did get the series drops. We talked about it on the Snapchat. Zabu, Sauron, Shauna, Dazzler, and Shadow King moving to Series 4. Shadow King should have just been sent to Series 3. That's another conversation. And then to Series 3, we got M'Baku, Orca, and Atuma, none of which are very exciting. But what gets exciting here is not necessarily the visual stuff, but it's the balance updates that people are really interested in. So let's actually talk about those, because I think there's some very significant things here. Now, they did mention that they had made some kind of like timely changes to Zabu and to Silver Surfer. They were dominating the meta, and the result was that the counterbalance of what was keeping Thanos in check kind of got thrown out of whack and allowed Thanos and Shuri to go absolutely wild. So these are the changes that have been made. So first of all, Thanos was a 6'8" prior and now has been moved to a 6'10" from 6'11". So we went from 6'8" to 6'11" to 6'10". The key here is to keep it in Shang-Chi range, above 9 power, so it could have went actually to 6'9", honestly. But also, they want it to be still a big bad that puts down a lot of power on the board, right? So, I mean, the interaction with Power Stone is still there. It can still get to basically 20. It's still a good card. It's just a matter of the stone interactions that were really the problem. And with that being said, it's the Space Stone that has been changed to now being an on-reveal the next turn. You can move a card to that location, so it actually becomes the Cloak effect, which I think is important to understand, because that really like kind of negates that benefit of having the you know, you play the Space Stone, you move something out from the Lockjaw, continuously play into the Lockjaw, which is exactly what they identified in their developer comments. It's unfortunate because I think that Space Stone had a really cool effect. I like the idea of playing something, then moving it wherever. I mean, but that's a very powerful effect. The ability to move wherever you want is key in a game about location management, right? So this is a huge nerf to the Space Stone, and specifically it does target Lockjaw without actually targeting Lockjaw itself. So very necessary. One thing I will say, it was interesting to not see the Time Stone get nerfed, which is also incredibly powerful, but specifically with Lockjaw, this was the Lockjaw nerf that they were kind of going after. Now, this is the change that actually really bothers me. And I'm glad that there's patch changes being made, and I mean, the development team will know like what's coming out in the future that could impact their decision. But seeing Quinjet get like basically now reduces to a minimum of 1, that shatters my heart. That to me feels like Quinjet just took a stray bullet to the chest to protect Thanos and the like interaction with its stones, right? Like that nerfed like Maria Hill. It nerfs Devil Dinosaur base decks. It nerfs Cable. It nerfs like so many different things get hammered by. Like Maria Hill's basically a dead card now because of the Quinjet nerf. The shield archetype gets destroyed by this nerf, and it shouldn't be significant, but getting a 1-drop from Maria Hill with Quinjet being able to play it for free, it being a random 1-drop, was kind of important. It nerfs the Hood and Demon naturally, right? Like, it's a heavy-handed nerf to Quinjet, wherein, like, realistically, if you get those stones from Thanos and just make them start in the deck, like, it resolves that problem. It resolves that problem. So I feel like Quinjet took a stray shot. I can see this being changed in the future, like changing it back, because like Maria Hill's not a problem, right? But Quinjet just got absolutely demolished. But they do mention that like it's the where is it here? It's the card reduction is super powerful, but it's the ongoing risk for future design space. Like, I totally understand that, right? But it really breaks my heart as a Devil Dinosaur enjoyer, someone who loves the shield mechanics, to see Quinjet get nerfed like this, because it feels heavy-handed to fix a Thanos problem, right? So that is one of the things that kind of left me feeling a little sad. Now, with that being said, we do have the Red Skull nerf here. Red Skull being changed, it actually makes a lot of sense. From going from a 5-5 ongoing -2 to a 5-13 to a -1. That basically means that, +1 based on the crowded location. This is a good idea. I like the idea of like restricting kind of like the Shuri benefit. It's only a couple points, but it still adds up, right? You've been surprised at how often you could lose by 1 or 2 points, right? So it is notable. However, what's most notable, and Shuri's going to get more nerfed later on, it's a huge change. But the +1 power to opposing units allows like Red Skull to be viable outside of Shuri. So I think that's important, right? It gives Red Skull a little more room to breathe. Now, SheHulk getting nerfed, it kind of took me by surprise. I was not expecting SheHulk to be changed to a 6-9, but literally I chose it on the Snapchat podcast with Cozy. I discussed how I thought that SheHulk was the best card in Marvel Snap. And clearly it had the incredible win rate that it did, nearly 60%. It was played in almost all decks. Its play rate's well over 50%. And I guess toning down the power level is probably appropriate. It was also a key component of Shuri-based lists, but it's just in every single list, and dialing back that power is important. I think it also is a shadow buff to like the Hulks and the other 6 drops that just weren't seeing play because She-Hulk was crowding that space. And I mean, Magneto's still like, we didn't get any Hulk love here. We could have used a couple buffs in this list, honestly, but nerfs this time around, and She-Hulk is one of the ones that got it. It makes perfect sense. Aero is a huge change as well. Now, Aero being changed so that it moves the last enemy card played this turn to a location. It's interesting. This is heavier handed than I expected. The reason why I say that is because my expectation with Aero was that they were going to adjust it so that maybe it was one cost, it was going to be a 5-6 or whatever. And then what they could have done was they could have made it so it actually pulled in order. So your counterplay was the order by which you played the cards in expectation of an Aero play. However, what they've done here is they've made it so that it just moves the last enemy card play, which I mean still makes it so your order matters. But I think it's a heavier-handed nerf. It obviously gets the additional power. It goes up to 8. So they're obviously compensating for it. However, this is huge. Aero now just does not function the way it used to. It still counters Galactus and other kind of major turn 6 plays or turn whatever plays, right? Like when Galactus comes out after wave, you still get the job done. However, it's a totally different card now. And now this is like strictly a tech card. It always was. But I think the general of like viability of Aero has been greatly restricted, right? And because it's only the last card, it's ironic because you can still like that turn 6 play where you play a 5-drop and a 1, right? The way in the order in which you do that protects you from Aero, which is good counterplay, but this is a pretty heavy-handed nerf. This is a huge nerf to Aero, honestly. One might suggest that this is actually a heavier-handed nerf to like than what happened to Shuri, but still Shuri got nerfed pretty hard. And this was it. It's funny. Now, I brought up the Snapchat a couple times, but I actually called this out. I said that I'm surprised that Taskmaster can pull value out of the graveyard, and if you want to nerf the Shuri list, you nerf that, and suddenly it creates a whole new type of situation where essentially like it's harder to get that value, and that's exactly what they've done. They've actually nerfed exactly that, and it's wild to me because now what you have is a situation where if you Shang-Chi the Red Skull, you Shang-Chi the She-Hulk or whatever, then those cards they're basically useless. Like they go into the graveyard, Taskmaster's played, and it just sits there like, LOL, I guess. Like I'll take whatever, like garbage Shuri or whatever happened to be played prior, and it's not the item in the graveyard, which is key. And the problem with this was that like it's a good nerf to Shuri, but it's also a buff to Shang-Chi, right? And this is why these card games, they exist in this delicate balance where like now you have Shang-Chi that just got buffed, right? Shang-Chi's now better than ever, and it was already like the 3rd most popular card in Marvel Snap with an incredible win rate when played because of how powerful its effect is. Shang-Chi is now the best card in Marvel Snap, right? Because of this impact, because of what it can do to Mystique and Darkhawk. Darkhawk gets punched out. Mystique now doesn't have that copy effect. So huge buff to Shang-Chi, ironically, through these changes. And is that a good thing? I'm not sure. Like these tech cards, they exist for a reason, right? And it's also worth noting that Leech, unaffected here. Leech does not get impacted. Time Stone still has a role to play. I guess Leech, the design team really wants to experiment with leaving Leech as it is as a counter card. And while giving it the opportunity to like reduce the chances it comes out on like turn 3 or 4 in those Thanos based lists, which is what was so frustrating. If Leech comes out on 5, 100% fair play, but it coming out early, I mean, even turn 4 with like Electro or Time Stone, whatever, right? I guess that's fair enough, but it was the cheating out on turn 3 with the Lockjaw that I think was a little frustrating for a lot of people. But huge nerfs here to Taskmaster, Mystique, and Absorbing Man, and their general playstyle while also buffing Shang-Chi. So very interesting choices here. Now, the Morbius and the Knull changes are pretty interesting. This is just kind of like a... This is more like a, not necessarily a bug fix, but basically the Morbius power being updated, not in hand or in deck, but only at the location. That's fine. It still gets the value, but just when you play, then it kind of shows its value. The Knull's different because Knull, you want to have that calculation in front of you so you can make an informed turn 6 play, but also it gives it viability in Mr. Negative lists because now when things are destroyed, the value doesn't shoot up, which kind of messes it up in negative, and now you can actually pull it with Mr. Negative because it remains a 6-0, you pull it into your hand, and then suddenly it actually gets the value, right? So that's pretty neat. Really interesting change for Knull. Like that kind of interaction, I really like the idea of like adjusting the cards to, you know, make the playability of it increase and give it more deck building opportunities. In Widow's Bite, this is almost like a bug fix too. Basically, like if you're in Weird World, for instance, like it would like have weird interactions with the way that like the drawing would work. Now, if it's in your hand, you just don't draw cards with the Widow's Bite. Makes perfect sense, right? And then you got a bunch of bug fixes, but ultimately, the things I was most surprised of here is the fact that you know, the Quinjet is by far the biggest hit. I think that this might be a misplay. Like this feels really bad because you basically nerfed an archetype that probably didn't deserve it. I was surprised Leech didn't get touched, but it makes sense with the way they touched up on the you know, the Lockjaw, the Thanos, and stuff like that, while still providing the counterplay for free-to-play players in Pool 2 and upwards to give them the opportunity to play Leech when someone's holding a Galactus and all the garbage they want to pull on them on turn 6s, right? So I understand the design landscape from that, but for me, it's the Quinjet that really hurts. I think that this didn't have to happen. I don't think Quinjet needed to take a shot and get nerfed. I understand why it happened, but it just shatters my heart because, like, so many archetypes get impacted by Quinjet that were not meta-defining archetypes that just got worse. And those might have been the deck lists that would have made the meta more fresh, that would have made the meta more competitive, that would have given more viability to more decks. And now Quinjet's nerf makes it so that there's probably just going to be another 1 or 2 decks that emerge. Like the Devil Dinosaur archetype kind of got hit here. Shield has basically gotten hammered. So like those lists that weren't necessarily competitive prior now have less of a chance of really making this meta feel fresh. So I don't like this Quinjet change at all, but again, I'm not a dev and I understand why the design space can be impacted by it, but I kind of wish they perhaps looked at something different. Regardless, guys, thanks for watching the video. Press the like button if you'd like to support content like this, and I really appreciate you guys supporting me and my content. And once again, I got a video for you down below if you're interested in seeing more Marvel Snap. We'll see you guys in the next Marvel Snap video.